Yo, the streets are talking and the internet is on fire right now. Fans everywhere are losing their minds because 6ix9ine just dropped receipts that have everyone questioning what's really going on with Fat Joe. And if you thought this drama was over, think again, because Fat Joe is finally breaking his silence. And trust me, he's not holding back. For weeks. The rumors, leaks, and clips have been circulating, and everyone has had an opinion. Social media exploded with reactions. Some people saying Fat Joe is done, some saying 6ix9ine went too far. But here's the thing. Until now, nobody heard the real side of the story. Nobody heard Fat Joe's voice, his explanation, or what he really thinks about these receipts. And when he finally spoke, the reaction was instant. Fans, OGs, and even other rappers couldn't believe what he said. People are calling it a clapback, a truth bomb, and in some corners, a complete shift in the narrative. The streets are buzzing, and the conversation is only heating up. Tonight, we're diving deep. We're breaking down what 6ix9ine revealed, Fat Joe's response, and why this could change the game entirely. We're going into every angle. The receipts, the reactions, and what the OGs are saying behind the scenes. So buckle up because this story is bigger than it looks, and you do not want to miss a single moment. Stay tuned because the truth is finally coming out, and it's shocking. The story starts long before the receipts even drop. People close to the situation had been noticing tension between Fat Joe and 6ix9ine for months, long before social media picked up on it. Fat Joe, a legend in the game, has seen it all. The beefs, the fake friends, the internet trolls. But 6ix9ine has a way of making even veteran rappers react. It's not just his music. It's the chaos he creates, the receipts he leaks, and the narratives he controls. When 6ix9ine dropped those receipts, it wasn't just another clip. It was explosive. A calculated move that hit Fat Joe's name across timelines, comment sections, and blogs, sparking debates from the streets to the highest levels of hip-hop commentary. At first, fans were split. Some said, Fat Joe can't recover from this. Others argued that 6ix9ine was exaggerating, twisting old stories to make himself look bigger. But what everyone agreed on was the shock value. These receipts weren't trivial. They were detailed, undeniable, and public. In the world of hip-hop, reputation is everything. And for Fat Joe, being hit with this kind of revelation shakes both legacy and influence. While the internet was buzzing, insiders were calling it a chess move. They knew 6ix9ine didn't just drop this to get clicks. He wanted a reaction. He wanted to see how Fat Joe would respond, how the streets would react, and whether OGs in the game would weigh in. And that's exactly where the tension builds. Fat Joe, someone who has built his career on respect, street credibility, and longevity, now faces a challenge that can't be ignored. For weeks, the rumors swirled quietly. People close to Fat Joe said he was frustrated, tired of social media narratives, and carefully planning his next move. Unlike some artists who respond immediately, Fat Joe is strategic. He doesn't rush. He doesn't respond to every poke or comment. But when enough pressure builds and when the receipts start defining the story, even someone like him knows it's time to speak. And then it happened. Fat Joe finally went public. Whether it was through a live stream, social media post, or video statement, he addressed the receipts directly. He didn't attack 6ix9ine the way most would expect. He didn't mock him. He didn't try to downplay what had been revealed. Instead, he spoke from a place of authority, honesty, and experience. Fat Joe explained the context behind the situations 6ix9ine tried to frame, clarified misunderstandings, and reminded everyone why he's still one of the most respected figures in hip-hop. But the streets don't just react to words. They react to energy, body language, tone, and delivery. Fans immediately noticed that Fat Joe was calm, composed, and confident. He wasn't defensive. He was explaining. He wasn't scared. He was responding. And that energy alone changed the narrative for many. People who had assumed 6ix9ine had finally taken him down started reconsidering. The comment sections exploded with fans saying things like, Fat Joe came correct, and this man still runs the streets. Meanwhile, the ripple effect began. Other rappers and industry figures noticed Fat Joe's response. Some publicly supported him. Others quietly sent messages of respect. And some, of course, used the situation to create more drama, speculating on what this would mean for future feuds, collaborations, or rivalries. The thing about hip-hop is that even a single response can influence multiple storylines at once. One clip, one statement, and suddenly, everyone is weighing in, predicting, analyzing, and debating the implications. As Fat Joe's response circulated, some fans dug even deeper into the original receipts. They analyzed each claim, scrutinized every detail, and compared it with Fat Joe's explanation. In doing so, they realized that some of 6ix9ine's claims were exaggerated or missing context. The streets started talking differently, from shock to curiosity to speculation about what 6ix9ine might do next. And that's when the tension peaked, because 6ix9ine isn't known for quietly accepting responses. He thrives on escalating situations. So while Fat Joe's calm and authoritative reply settled some fans, it also challenged 6ix9ine. It forced him to consider his next move, whether it's another set of receipts, a video response, or stirring new rumors. And that's exactly the dynamic that keeps people glued to the screen. The constant back and forth, the power plays, the unpredictable next move. The streets, of course, had their opinions. Some praised Fat Joe for his composure, calling it a lesson in respect and experience. Others questioned whether he should have responded at all, worried that addressing 6ix9ine only gives him more fuel for future drama. OGs in the industry weighed in behind the scenes, reminding everyone that in situations like this, reputation is currency, and every move, no matter how calculated, carries risk. By the end of the day, one thing became clear. Fat Joe didn't just respond. He shifted the narrative. What could have been a moment of humiliation or public defeat turned into a statement of authority. He reminded fans, the streets, and even 6ix9ine that he is a legend who knows how to handle pressure. And in hip-hop, handling pressure isn't just about words. It's about timing, strategy, and presence. The streets now waited for the next chapter. Will 6ix9ine escalate? Will he drop more receipts? Will other rappers get involved? And how will Fat Joe continue to protect his legacy while navigating this volatile situation? Every new video, every tweet, every comment could spark the next wave of reactions. And that's why this story isn't just a headline. It's a multi-layered saga that's far from over. Fat Joe's response didn't just address the receipts. It sent a message. Experience, respect, and authority still matter in this game. The streets, the fans, and even other rappers are now watching closer than ever. And while some people predicted he would crumble under the pressure, Fat Joe proved that a composed, strategic response can flip the narrative entirely. As the streets started buzzing from Fat Joe's response, the conversation shifted from shock to analysis. Fans weren't just reacting to what he said, they were dissecting how he said it. Every pause, every tone, every facial expression was under scrutiny. People noticed that Fat Joe didn't just defend himself. He reframed the narrative. Instead of letting 6ix9ine's receipts define him, he contextualized them, giving insight into situations that the public had misunderstood. This subtle yet powerful move flipped the story, and suddenly the streets began to see him in a new light. What made this even more interesting was the reaction from other rappers and OGs. Many industry veterans reached out privately to show respect. Some even publicly backed him, either on social media or through interviews, reinforcing that Fat Joe isn't just defending himself, he's reclaiming his legacy. Hip-hop, after all, is about credibility and respect. And in moments like this, who you stand with or who supports you speaks volumes. Even those who might not publicly take sides are quietly evaluating the situation, aware that alliances and reputation are at stake. Meanwhile, 6ix9ine's camp couldn't stay quiet either. You could almost feel the tension rise as new videos, snippets, and cryptic posts started surfacing online. People began to speculate. Was 6ix9ine preparing a counterattack? Or was he going to double down on his narrative? In hip-hop, timing is everything, and a single misstep could escalate this feud into a full-blown industry spectacle. The streets were glued to every post, tweet, and clip, trying to predict what would happen next. Fans themselves became part of the story. Comment sections lit up with debates, some defending Fat Joe, some backing 6ix9ine, and others speculating on possible alliances, hidden receipts, and OG interventions. Memes exploded overnight, turning the situation into viral content that drew in casual viewers, not just hardcore fans. Every reaction added fuel to the fire, amplifying the story and increasing the stakes. The tension wasn't just online. It was real in the sense that it could affect reputations, future collaborations, and the narrative surrounding both artists. Insiders pointed out that this wasn't just a personal feud, it was strategic. Fat Joe's response wasn't a knee-jerk reaction. It was calculated. By addressing the receipts in a composed and authoritative way, he reminded everyone why he has endured in the game for decades. He reinforced his street credibility, his music legacy, and his ability to handle high-pressure situations without losing control. This was more than a response. It was a statement about power, experience, and influence. At the same time, 6ix9ine thrives on chaos. Every move he makes is designed to provoke, to attract attention, and to control the narrative. He knows that even a calm response from Fat Joe doesn't remove him from the conversation. It only escalates interest. Fans know this, and it's what keeps them engaged, refreshing timelines, watching clips, and debating every possible outcome. In a way, both artists are locked in a chess game, where strategy, timing, and public perception are just as important as music or receipts. As the situation unfolded, speculation about possible next moves skyrocketed. Would Fat Joe drop music addressing the receipts? Would he call out 6ix9ine directly in another statement? Could there be a behind-the-scenes meeting, an olive branch, or perhaps a more intense public clash? The streets weren't just watching. They were predicting, analyzing, and sharing theories that ranged from believable to outrageous. Each scenario added layers to the story, making it feel like a multi-season saga rather than a single video clip. Fans also began looking back at old interactions between Fat Joe and 6ix9ine. Previous collaborations, old tweets, and past interviews were re-examined for hidden meanings or foreshadowing. Some noticed subtle jabs or cryptic references that, in hindsight, made perfect sense. Others debated whether 6ix9ine had been building to this moment all along, or if it was a spontaneous reaction to a new development. Either way, the streets were fully invested, and the narrative was no longer just about receipts. It was about influence, legacy, and the public perception of power. Amid all this, Fat Joe's demeanor became a talking point. Fans and insiders alike commented on how composed he appeared despite the intensity of the situation. There was no overreaction, no desperate attempt to control the narrative. Instead, he communicated authority and confidence, proving that even in the face of viral controversy, experience and strategy matter more than online noise. The streets started saying, "This is why Fat Joe has lasted so long," highlighting that legacy and respect often outweigh immediate drama. And yet, the tension remained high. While Fat Joe had shifted the narrative, 6ix9ine's presence in the conversation ensured that the feud was far from over. Fans anticipated the next receipts, the next posts, or the next videos that could escalate the situation even further. It became clear that this wasn't just a momentary clash. It was an ongoing story with multiple layers, affecting not just the two artists but the culture, fans, and even industry dynamics. One thing was undeniable. Fat Joe had successfully pushed back against 6ix9ine's initial narrative, but the streets were still watching closely. Every new post, comment, or leak could tip the scales, and the anticipation for the next chapter was at an all-time high. This wasn't just drama. It was a lesson in strategy, reputation, and the power of staying composed under fire. Fans were hooked, insiders were analyzing, and the hip-hop world was waiting for what would happen next. The tension surrounding Fat Joe and 6ix9ine escalates even further. After Fat Joe's initial response, the streets were alive with debates, speculations, and reactions. Fans were dissecting every word he said, analyzing every gesture, and comparing it to 6ix9ine's receipts. But this wasn't just about words anymore. It was about perception, influence, and who controlled the narrative in the hip-hop world. Fat Joe's calm, composed approach gave him an upper hand in credibility. But 6ix9ine thrived in chaos, and the next move could flip everything in an instant. Industry insiders pointed out that 6ix9ine isn't just reacting randomly. Every clip, every receipt, every post is calculated to get attention and provoke a reaction. He understands how to manipulate social media and public opinion to his advantage. But what he may have underestimated was Fat Joe's experience. Fat Joe knows that responding too quickly, too aggressively, or too defensively can play right into 6ix9ine's hands. That's why his approach was measured, confident, and strategic. He spoke, but he didn't overexpose himself. He clarified, but he didn't escalate unnecessarily. He reminded fans and the streets why he commands respect in the game. Meanwhile, 6ix9ine's followers began pushing more content, memes, and clips online, trying to regain the upper hand. They speculated about what Fat Joe might say next, or how he might respond to further provocations. But the longer Fat Joe stayed composed, the more frustrated they became. Social media chatter turned into debates about respect, legacy, and street credibility. Many people who initially sided with 6ix9ine began reconsidering their opinions, seeing Fat Joe as calm, authoritative, and experienced in a way that 6ix9ine simply hasn't learned yet. At the same time, other rappers and figures in the hip-hop world started weighing in. Some sent public messages of support, praising Fat Joe for his composure. Others offered commentary or analysis, speculating about the long-term impact of these receipts and responses. OGs in particular were paying attention, not just for entertainment, but to observe how two major figures in the culture handled a high-stakes situation. These are lessons in strategy and influence, and the streets notice when respect is maintained or lost. Even more dramatic was the growing tension between online narratives and street perception. While social media amplified every clip and comment, people in the streets were talking differently. Some respected Fat Joe's calm demeanor. Others debated whether his measured response might allow 6ix9ine to continue testing boundaries. The duality of online and real-world perception created a complex dynamic where every move mattered. Fans were fully invested, and the anticipation for the next update reached a fever pitch. One critical aspect of this situation was the long-term narrative. Fat Joe didn't just respond to the receipts. He positioned himself as a legend who knows how to handle pressure. This wasn't about winning a single argument or proving a point on social media. It was about maintaining credibility, protecting his legacy, and showing that experience in the game can outweigh short-term drama. And the streets noticed. Comments like, "This is why he's lasted so long and Fat Joe knows the game," started trending, reinforcing his reputation and shifting the narrative away from 6ix9ine's initial explosion. Meanwhile, speculation about potential future moves reached new heights. Fans debated whether Fat Joe would release a song addressing the receipts, confront 6ix9ine directly, or continue his strategic silence. Every new leak, post, or cryptic message online became fodder for discussion, keeping the story alive and trending across platforms. Even casual viewers, not usually invested in the feud, found themselves checking timelines, clips, and blogs to see what happened next. The stakes weren't just personal, they were cultural, shaping perception in a way that could impact influence, collaborations, and street credibility. As the weeks went on, one thing became clear. This wasn't a simple back and forth. It was a multi-layered saga. Fat Joe had successfully reframed the story, turning a potentially humiliating moment into a statement of authority. But 6ix9ine's presence ensured that the situation was far from resolved. The streets were waiting, insiders were analyzing, and fans were debating. Every small move, every post, and every leak could escalate or de-escalate the situation, making it unpredictable and compelling. Also highlighted the psychological aspect of this feud. Fat Joe's composure wasn't just for show, it was a tactic. By staying calm, he forced 6ix9ine to consider his next move carefully. He demonstrated that experience and strategic thinking can outweigh impulsive reactions. And that's why OGs and insiders were quietly impressed, noting that this is how legends handle high-stakes situations in the culture. Respect, credibility, and timing are everything, and Fat Joe was demonstrating all three. The streets were fully aware that the story was far from over. Every viewer, insider, and fan knew that the next chapter could be explosive. Would 6ix9ine double down with more receipts? Would Fat Joe escalate through music, interviews, or social media? Would other rappers get involved, taking sides or providing analysis? The possibilities were endless, and the suspense was electric. This is the moment where the tension peaks, the narrative deepens, and the streets are fully engaged. Fat Joe's calm yet powerful response has shifted perceptions, but the saga isn't finished. The anticipation, the debates, and the speculation are all building toward the ultimate next chapter, where actions, statements, and influence will collide in a way that could redefine the story entirely. The stakes couldn't be higher. Fat Joe's response to 6ix9ine's receipts has already sent shockwaves across the streets, online forums, and the hip-hop world at large. But now the aftermath begins to unfold. Fans are no longer just reacting. They are analyzing, predicting, and creating their own narratives. Every tweet, post, and comment adds fuel to the fire, and every insider observation contributes to a deeper understanding of what this moment means. This isn't just about one feud, it's about legacy, influence, and how reputation can be defended under intense pressure. The calm, strategic approach Fat Joe took continues to be a central point of discussion. He didn't just respond, he reframed the narrative entirely. He showed that experience and composure can neutralize the chaos that 6ix9ine thrives on. By explaining the context behind the receipts and maintaining authority without aggression, Fat Joe reminded the streets and fans why he has endured in the game for decades. This wasn't about proving someone wrong. It was about maintaining power and credibility in the face of public scrutiny. Meanwhile, 6ix9ine's team and supporters were not silent. New content began circulating online: cryptic posts, subtle jabs, and more speculation. Yet Fat Joe's measured response had already shifted the public perception. Many fans who initially sided with 6ix9ine began reconsidering their stance, acknowledging Fat Joe's poise, clarity, and ability to navigate high-stakes drama. The streets began echoing sentiments like, "This is why legends last," and "Fat Joe knows the game better than most." Even some insiders were impressed by the way he handled the pressure without losing composure. Industry veterans weighed in as well, offering their perspectives. Some praised Fat Joe for his strategic response, noting that in moments like these, a calm reaction can be more powerful than an immediate clapback. Others analyzed the potential long-term effects. How will this impact Fat Joe's collaborations, influence, or street credibility? Could this moment redefine his legacy in the eyes of younger fans? The complexity of the situation became apparent. This wasn't just a social media feud. It was a high-stakes cultural chess game, and every move mattered. Fan engagement reached new levels. Comment sections exploded with theories, predictions, and reactions. Memes proliferated, videos were shared endlessly, and debates raged over whether Fat Joe's approach was perfect or if 6ix9ine still had potential to escalate the feud. Social media wasn't just amplifying the story, it was shaping it. Every opinion added layers to the narrative, keeping the audience fully invested in what could happen next. The streets were talking, and even casual fans who normally wouldn't follow these dynamics were glued to the screens. Strategically, Fat Joe had not only defended his legacy but also sent a message to the entire hip-hop world. This was a demonstration that experience, composure, and timing matter more than impulsive reactions or viral moments. While 6ix9ine thrives on creating chaos and forcing responses, Fat Joe proved that staying calm and measured can command respect and influence perception more effectively than any online tirade. The streets recognized this, and the narrative began to shift in his favor. The speculation didn't end there. Fans began predicting Fat Joe's next moves. Would he release a new track addressing the receipts? Would he call out 6ix9ine directly in an interview or a live stream? Could he leverage this moment into collaborations, media appearances, or other industry moves? Each prediction added suspense, and the streets eagerly awaited the next chapter. Even OGs in the game acknowledged that this feud, while public, was also a lesson in strategy, patience, and influence. At this stage, it was clear that this wasn't just drama, it was a cultural moment. Fat Joe's response had shifted the conversation, reclaimed respect, and proved that legends know how to handle pressure without losing their cool. But the narrative was still alive, and the anticipation for the next move remained high. Fans and insiders alike were closely monitoring social media, blogs, and interviews, knowing that any new development could escalate the story once again. And now, this is where you, the viewer, come in. Stay tuned and engaged, because the next update could be bigger than anything we've seen so far. Comment below with your predictions. Will 6ix9ine drop more receipts? Will Fat Joe respond further through music, interviews, or posts? Who else might get involved? Your thoughts shape the conversation and keep the streets buzzing. Make sure you like this video, subscribe, and hit the notification bell, because every new development in this saga will drop right here. Share it with your friends, your crew, and anyone following the drama, because the conversation is only getting hotter. The streets are watching, the OGs are analyzing, and the game is shifting right before our eyes. This final chapter isn't really an ending, it's a setup for the next phase. Fat Joe proved that experience, strategy, and credibility can turn a potentially humiliating situation into a statement of authority. 6ix9ine's chaos might continue, but Fat Joe's approach has shown that measured responses carry far more weight than impulsive reactions. So buckle up, stay alert, and keep your eyes on the game. The streets are alive, the fans are talking, and the story is far from over. Fat Joe has set the tone, but the next moves will define how this saga ultimately plays out. Stay tuned, because the next chapter could change everything, and you'll want to be the first to witness it.